I'll bring the mic downstairs, record that real fast, and then bring the mic back up.
Go.
Did you see? Just in the nick of time. If I hadn't saved it right then, I would have lost the entire episode.
I know, it would have been sad.
Welcome to the Crooked Table Podcast. This is Rob.
And this is Kai.
On this episode, we're going to be talking about writer-director M. Night Shyamalan's latest film, The Visit, as well as doing a little bit of a retrospective on his career to date. So just to get things started, Kai, what anything you've been watching lately, movie-wise?
Nothing that outside of what I'm watching with you. I mean, I know that the last movie I saw in the movie theater was The Gift. I saw that a few weeks ago, and that was pretty good. And this is my second horror movie now with The Visit that I saw in a row, which is great for me because I don't like horror movies really at all. So
yeah, it's funny. You almost didn't want to go see this with me in the first place at all. I feel like I sort of had to quasi guilt trip you to come with me, but not really.
No, I feel like I invited myself.
It was your idea. You're like, I can go with you, and I was kind of did a double take and was sort of like, really? Do you really want to do that? Because that your whole point was that looks scary. You're going by yourself. Right,
and I think for me, I didn't want you to go alone because you go to movies by yourself sometimes.
Well,
you have to do reviews.
Occupational hazard, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I wanted, I guess I was thinking, like, oh, we can see a horror movie together in the movie theater, and if it gets scary, then the armrest can go up and we'll snuggle.
Aw.
You know, it's not like it's going to hurt me or anything.
So you have nothing you've been watching other than The Gift, but you recommend The Gift?
I do recommend The Gift. Very good film.
There's a review, of course, of that on crookedtable.com under the review section up top. I've been watching several different things. The other day I saw Into the Woods, the musical based on the Stephen Sondheim play, starring Meryl Streep and Anna Kendrick, Emily Blunt, and a bunch of other people. That was interesting. It did kind of feel like a little bit like a musical Once Upon a Time, in that it mashed up a bunch of different fairy tale storylines and such. But it was interesting. It was worth watching, especially if you're into that kind of thing, which I know you're not.
Depends.
Which is why I watched it by myself. And but really, the thing I've been watching recently that I would really recommend is an indie comedy called Dear White People. Actually, that should be featured on Wednesday's montage post, along with Into the Woods. And I gave that 4 out of 5, a little bit of a sneak peek there. That's a really smart, it's a really smart satire about race relations and sort of that part-time in your early 20s where you're trying to figure out who you are and your place in the world and, do you fit how society, perceives, that you should be and all that stuff. So that was an interesting film that I'll probably share with you at some point, Kai, and that listeners should check out because highly recommended by the Crooked Table. Going into The Visit, I guess, were you really scared with that? Was it as creepy as you imagined it would be in your head before you went to see it?
There were scenes that were creepy, but then there were other parts that I was genuinely bored.
Isn't that kind of a lot of horror movies, though? I feel like that's a lot of Paranormal Activity. I was bored through most of that. And that's an apt comparison, especially since The Visit is essentially a found footage movie, which it's funny, I didn't even realize that until like a couple of days before it came out when we went to see it, that I was reading reviews about, M. Night Shyamalan's new found footage horror movie, The Visit. And I was like, wait, that's found footage? How come I didn't notice that by the trailers? Did you?
And I didn't notice that until I went in to see the movie.
Oh, so you didn't know it was found
No,
footage.
I did not.
Okay, so what specifically... I guess, okay, we'll back it up. We'll do the M. Night Shyamalan conversation first, to get that out of the way, and then we'll talk about The Visit, obviously the next step of his career. So going into this, what was your opinion of M. Night Shyamalan as a filmmaker and his resume to date, so to speak? Because as you know, and most of our listeners I'm sure know, his last few films specifically, but I mean, I feel like this is something that has been kind of following him since pretty soon after The Sixth Sense, just with him being sort of a one-trick pony and always with the last-minute, plot twists and a lot more atmosphere and less substance in his work. So going in, which of his films had you seen beforehand? What were you sort of expecting?
The only movies I've seen, I have not seen M. Night Shyamalan movie since Unbreakable, which I saw in the movie theater. And I loved Unbreakable. It was one of those films that just left me very unsettled, and I saw it with a group of friends, and all of us were like, oh wow, this was a really good film. And I actually didn't see The Sixth Sense. I don't think I saw The Sixth Sense until DVD, maybe like a year after it came out on DVD. So I don't think I actually knew the twist per se. because I typically don't ever know what's going on with movies to begin with. But it was, I think that both those two films were really good. The Sixth Sense, to me, in my opinion, was personally overhyped. I think that it was talked way too much about, and not enough attention was paid to Unbreakable, which I still think is a really good film. I haven't seen anything else since then, and I haven't heard any good things. I heard signs from other people. It was kind of lame. The Happening is now like a joke about how bad that movie is and ridiculous. And I think, and actually I was telling this to Rob the other day, that I feel like M. Night Shyamalan thinks that he's a lot deeper than he really is. Like, he has this deep purpose in the movies that he writes about, and he like wants to come at it from like an intellectual standpoint, but then it just falls flat. And the movies don't do what he intellectually thought they were going to do to the audience. So I just think he thinks he's a bigger deal than he is.
Fair enough. I saw Sixth Sense on DVD. I saw Unbreakable in theaters, Signs in theaters, and The Village in theaters, and then I think I caught Lady in the Water on DVD, and that was I liked Sixth Sense all right. I wasn't a huge fan because it had, like you said, it was talked about so much to the point that your expectations were unrealistically high when you actually saw the film. I do think it is well made and well acted and all that. If there hadn't been such ludicrously high expectations going into it, since I didn't see it right away, I probably would have liked it more. But Unbreakable, I still think, is his best film. And it's funny because in the last few years, I feel like that movie has sort of become a cult favorite. Like, I feel like there is a small faction of people that really love that movie. And he keeps talking about having ideas for a sequel, or like envisioning that as part of a trilogy and that kind of thing. So I think now the way superhero movies are as big as they are, which wasn't the case when Unbreakable came out. This is like, I think it came out maybe a few months after the first X-Men movie. So this was really before Marvel was a major player in film.
And it was his own idea, right?
Yeah, that's based on a script that he wrote. It's not based on any pre-existing comic book property or anything like that. I feel like to have him come out with a potential sequel to that, the idea is, does he have a take on it that's fresh enough that could sort of make it worth revisiting? But I think if anybody right now has something interesting to say in that genre, I think he could probably bring that. And anyway, with Unbreakable, I was a big fan of that, and then The Village and Signs, not as much. And by the time I got to Lady in the Water, I was just like, okay, no, this is not. I wasn't feeling that at all. In fact, I thought it was kind of a mess narratively, and like you were saying, he aspires a film to be something, and then it doesn't really get there. Like, it doesn't all come together, and you can see what he wants, what he's trying for it to be, but it just doesn't work. And that's how a lot of his movies fall flat for me. And because of all the things I'd heard about The Happening and Last Airbender.
And the way you make fun of it, I'm like, oh, have you not seen this movie before? And you keep saying you haven't, but you know so much.
Which one, The Happening?
Yeah.
Oh, well, you've seen the honest trailers and things like that. That's all you really need to see to be like, okay, yeah, this looks dumb.
Yeah.
Plus, my parents saw it, and they were telling me about what the movie what happens.
Did they like it?
I think they did. I think they bought into that it's scary and all that. I don't know.
But you know who M. Night Shyamalan is? He is the Dean Koontz of directors, of movie writers. And what I mean by that,
okay, that was about to ask,
is that I used to read a lot of Dean Koontz books. He was one of my favorite authors because this man, he would build up the climax so much where I could not stop reading the book. And it was just, where the story was going to go, I did not know. That rhymed. And it just was building up and building up. And then by the time the climax happened, it was underwhelming, it was boring, and I was disappointed. But then I kept reading the books till I got to a point. I said, this guy, he just doesn't know how to have a climactic ending. And M. Night Shyamalan, I feel, is the same way. He builds it up and he has all these great ideas, and then it falls flat. So he's the Dean Koontz of movie writers.
Did you think with Sixth Sense and Unbreakable, since those are the only ones that you've seen, and those are probably, two of his, I would say those are probably his two most appreciated movies now at this point. I feel like Signs was a huge hit when it came out, but I think it hasn't really stood the test of time very well. Do you think in those movies that the climaxes were well developed and surprising, or do you think that in those cases, that even in those cases, which are considered probably his best work, do you think it's still symptomatic of that same issue?
Not with Unbreakable. When the twist happened in Unbreakable, I actually was not expecting that. I thought it was a really great climax. The Sixth Sense, I kind of actually didn't know what happened. When the ending happened, I was watching with someone else, and I had asked, I said, what just happened? I don't understand. So I had to have it explained to me because I didn't understand the end of the movie. That's my own bad, maybe. Yeah,
were you not paying attention? Because they established
maybe I was bored. I don't know, but I didn't know that was the ending. Like I didn't understand that he was. Oh wow! As a spoiler, guys. I mean, come on, it's been 16 years.
Oh yeah,
he was dead, and only Haley Joel Osment's character could see him.
And they do. I mean, he does enough to try and establish that makes sense upon repeat viewings. But yeah, I don't know. That one's a little weird for me. Because the whole time, he's hanging around the little boy, and he's not. You don't ever see him talk to the mom and that kind of thing. So it's like even if Bruce Willis is dead, spoilers, I guess. I mean, like Kai said, how in his mind, if he doesn't know he's dead, how does he think he's getting access to this kid? He didn't talk to the mom. He didn't. You know what I mean? It's like he doesn't realize I'm hanging around my wife, and she's never acknowledging me for like days, weeks on end. He doesn't think, hey, maybe something was going on. I don't know. It was weird. The whole way of that, like you have to take a lot of leaps in order for that to make sense.
Yeah.
From a character perspective. You know?
It would have been nice if they didn't skip ahead to the next year. Like it would have been nice if they built it up a little bit more and explained, how he met the kid and like what ended up happening in the marriage with his wife that he would make him think that she didn't want to talk to him anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, some of that's there, but I don't feel like it's developed enough. And like I said, you have to really take a great. You really have to suspend your disbelief like crazy. Be like, all right, so maybe he's been dead for months and just never noticed that. Hey, I want to go down to the freaking McDonald's and get a burger, but hey, nobody's like paying attention to me. Why? You know what I mean? I don't know. That seems a little dubious. But didn't they explain it though?
Didn't the kid say they don't know they're dead?
Yeah, well, he doesn't know he's dead. But how do you not realize, hey, something's up? How do you not get suspicious of that if no one around you is paying attention to you? Yeah. I mean, if nobody's paying attention to him in the scenes that we see him in the movie, that makes sense because the circumstances sort of excuse a lot of that. But presumably this guy exists and he's out there floating around as a ghost in moments other than the ones we see. So how does that really work? You know what I mean?
Yeah, especially when he starts hanging out with this kid and this kid can see dead people.
Yeah.
Wouldn't he be like, maybe I'm dead too? Because this kid is the only person that can see me and talks to me.
Yeah, anyway,
yeah.
Yeah, we went out.
This is not a Sixth Sense podcast.
So, whereas in Unbreakable, I feel like the twist actually explained a lot and in a lot of ways made the story make more sense retroactively. Like once that big twist is revealed, and I won't spoil that because that's actually a movie I don't want to spoil for people. Once that twist is revealed, it sort of makes you go back and reevaluate the film from the beginning. Be like, oh, so that's why this, and this, and that's how this person heard about this person. Oh, like it all makes more sense rather than being like, wait, what? How did that happen?
Right.
So anyway, that's where you're coming from, and that's kind of where I felt like it's really important to sort of establish a baseline of our feelings on M. Night Shyamalan going in, and before we really sat down to watch The Visit. And I'd heard good things about it beforehand, the new film. So I was hopeful that it would sort of mark a return to form for Shyamalan. So finally getting to that. So the movie stars Olivia DeJonge and Ed Oxenbould as a pair of teens, and they are going off to stay with their grandparents for a week while their mom, who's hanging, has a new boyfriend. She's goes on a trip with him on a cruise. The whole family's basically still healing from the father, walking out on them, that kind of thing from years prior. So that's the setup, and they go to meet their grandparents that the mother's estranged from, and sort of reconnect with them. And of course, since it's a found footage movie, the conceit here is that the daughter is making a documentary film about her family and about their history and that kind of thing. So, just to break it down, what was your overall thoughts on the film, and then we'll sort of hone in as we go along.
I know when you asked me after the movie what my rating was, I think my rating was a little too high because I don't rate movies for a living like this guy does. So I rated a little too high. Some parts of the film bored me. A lot of scenes during the day, I'm just like, okay, all right, this is whatever. I actually stepped out for a few minutes, and I don't really think I missed that much.
Well, you did, though, because I had to explain to you at the end of the movie, you missed this part, which set up this thing at the end, remember?
Yeah.
So, because in the climax of the movie, you were like, wait, why is this character just doing this?
Yeah, who knew I actually missed something? And I think the grandmother is absolutely creepy looking. Like, when I think about grandparents, I don't picture these two people, like, and I guess that was good casting, because, like, I think of grandparents, grandparents that have grandchildren, not just old people, but grandparents, I think of them as being, like, a little bit more cuddly, a little bit more put together, a little bit more personable, even if they're grouchy. But the grandmother, she was just so frail, and, like, she just looked like a crazy person to me in this film, and she definitely creeped me out.
Well, I mean, part of that is just the movie's playing off of the idea that old people become odd, and they develop mental disorders, or, they can't control their bowels, or, they start to get a little weird and their mind starts to go. So part of that, the movie is just playing off of younger people's sort of assumptions about what old people are like. And that's what I thought was so brilliant about the setup of the movie. It's that you don't, for almost the entire running time, you don't know if these two, the grandparents, if they're insane, if they're, murderous, if they have split personalities, or if they're just random, regular old people who are well-intentioned but, have old people problems that they're dealing with.
Right. Yeah, so I think that was good how M. Night Shyamalan set it up, but I guess I feel like I expected more scary from the trailer than I got from the actual film.
Right. Well, I mean, part of horror movies, I feel like, just play devil's advocate for a minute, is you can't just have all scary, because then it loses its impact. And then that, like, hide and seek scene wouldn't be scary because you would have just seen something 2 seconds ago that was supposed to be scary also. So it's sort of, and plus not only that, in this film specifically, there's a whole family drama going on that provides a framework for the interactions with the grandparents that you have to establish outside of all the creepy moments. So you have to establish that the boy has, fear of germs, or that the daughter has these unresolved issues with looking in the mirror, or dealing with her father's abandonment of them, and all that stuff, so that when that climax happens, everybody is able to, grow and learn from an experience and sort of progress from it, basically. So I didn't feel like a lot of that was there. I mean, it's also developing a mystery surrounding the grandparents. You can't just have that come right out the gate and be like, here, this is what the situation is, because then why are you watching the movie? Right. So everything is going to be sort of vague for most of it, and if it's well paced, it kind of gradually information is doled out in small doses throughout the running time. So did you feel? I guess the question here is, did you feel like it wasn't steadily building? Did you feel like there was a period in the film where the mystery sort of plateaued and they were just sort of hanging out randomly?
Not necessarily, but I feel like the real scary stuff with the grandparents didn't even start to happen until they were about to leave.
Right.
Like, I feel like the build up for that was way too quick. The pacing didn't make sense.
So it was slow build, and then holy shit, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
Okay, fair. That's a fair point.
Because it was the last 2 days they were there where things really got
that's when
weird.
They got really suspicious about what was going on with the grandparents and all of that. So how did you feel about the performances? You were saying that the grandmother was played by an actress named Deanna Dunnigan, who was actually from Texas, which makes sense. Isn't it supposed to be where are they supposed to be in?
I think they're in upstate New York.
Is that where it is?
Because it even says at the end of the end credits, I love New York filming.
Oh, maybe.
And maybe
it wasn't set on location. Maybe they filmed it in New York, but it was set elsewhere. I don't remember.
But one thing she said that the grandmother said that I thought was interesting, it was maybe a good indicator of where they were. She said skosh.
Oh, really?
I feel like that's a Canadian word.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, she's just a skosh.
Oh, really? Is it? I haven't heard that very much.
Yeah.
Isn't that like smidge, sort of? Like,
yeah.
Just a smidge of this or whatever. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she did say that about something. I don't remember what.
Wait, is this filmed in Canada? Like, are they supposed to be set? Because it looked freaking cold over there.
Yeah, it was really cold.
And they were in like a rural area in the film.
Well, of course, it's, as in most horror movies, they're on a farm, sort of like in the middle of nowhere, that kind of thing, to really, set up the isolation of the situation that the characters are in. So, how did you feel about the performances from, the grandparents, from the kids, from, I guess, Catherine Hahn, who was in it like sporadically as the mom? usually via Skype. I thought she was really good considering she's mostly a comedic actress.
Yeah.
In here.
Yeah, I think all the actors did a good job. I really liked the kids. They were really cute. Tyler's adorable with his rapping, and the grandmother. Oh my gosh, she freaked me out. Like the picture that you have on the review. Oh my gosh, she did really good at playing creepy, crazy,
eccentric. I mean, the thing is too, it's like some of those moments like towards the end where they're playing Yahtzee and she sort of jumps in front of where the camera is, you know, because of course the main character, the young girl, is filming it.
And they're just fine with being filmed all the time. I thought that was a plot hole.
Yeah, we'll get there in a second. But they're playing Yahtzee and she just randomly jumps in front of the camera and is like, Yahtzee! It's like, is that creepy? Or is it only creepy because of the context of where the kids are coming from? It's only creepy because we see all the other stuff that they've been doing, but if you randomly take that at face value, it's not necessarily creepy. She's very enthusiastic because she's playing a board game with her grandkids. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
That's a lot of the good points of this film. Some of the bad stuff, I agree with you as far as some of the stuff not being necessarily slow, but not really progressing as much. Like I feel like some of the daytime scenes were just sort of similar in nature, and it's like, oh, how come grandma does this? How come grandpa does this? And then an explanation is you presented, and they sort of like, okay, I guess that's fine. And it wasn't, and it's just kind of going in circles a little bit with some of the unraveling of what's really going on, I guess. And also the whole found footage thing, I feel like it's been done to death, and it sort of fit the thematic elements here with the kids and like. The unresolved issues within that family unit. But I didn't think Shyamalan necessarily did anything particularly innovative with it. So it's, I don't know. Go ahead.
Well, the thing is, I was just thinking that when I think about found footage, I'm thinking because, somebody else found it. It's not, nobody else found it. It was their own videotapes.
Well, you were seeing it as they were filming it, I guess.
Yeah, so that's not really found footage.
Yeah, but some movies do that too.
What movies?
I haven't seen a lot of found footage
because
movies,
found footage movies had something bad happen in the end of the movie to the main characters in the film, and then like Paranormal Activity, it was found footage because the guy, spoiler, he dies, and the girl,
everybody dies in those movies, don't they? I mean,
and then the girl became a demon and ran away, and that's found footage. Cloverfield, same thing.
Yeah, Cloverfield's probably one of the ones that I would hold of the found footage movies that I've seen. That's probably one of the ones that I enjoyed the best. Because I thought that did do something interesting and presented a new look on a genre that we've seen a million times, like the giant monster movie. And I feel like this one, it's like a horror movie with found footage. Wow, how innovative! That's kind of the most common application of that style. But things like Cloverfield, things like Chronicle, I thought brought something a little different to the table. So just from that perspective, I had to take some points off of it. So going into, you wanted to talk about the ending. You started to get there. So spoilers now from this point on. Let me see where we're at. We're about 24 minutes in. I'll mark that in the show notes. Spoilers for the ending. It's revealed the end of the film when the grandma and parents are freaking them out, and they have the mom on Skype, and she's like, "You guys, listen to me. Those aren't your grandparents." What went through your mind when she said that? And she didn't even panic
when she said that. She's like, "Kids, those aren't your grandparents. Bring me Nana and Pop-Up." And they're like...
I think she was more confused than anything. She's like, wait a minute, what? And then when she followed it up with... then she panicked. When she followed it up with, have you guys been staying with these people the whole time? That's when she was losing her mind. Like, oh my God, calling the cops like while she was on Skype with them.
Yeah.
So what was your reaction when she said that? Did you see that coming? Or were you kind of like, holy fuck, mind blown?
I feel like it was kind of like, I didn't see that coming, but I should have, because I recall that they did that in the trailer, that she said, those aren't your grandparents. But I guess the way they set up in the trailer is that it could have just been, those aren't your grandparents because your grandparents are old now, and they're different people now because of the fact that they're older and they're getting sick.
Yeah, I kind of want to go back and watch the trailer now to see if they did reveal that in there, because that's kind of a key line that does spoil the end of the movie. So to put that in the marketing would be kind of, or maybe they meant to put it in the marketing on purpose, so that people aren't going in expecting a huge twist. You know what I mean? Instead, like you were saying, a lot of his twists have been sort of disappointing and underwhelming. So maybe they wanted to kind of let the cat out of the bag a little right out the gate. Be like, okay, they're not the grandparents. Don't freak out when you have a twist on your ass and we switch things around. So yeah, I sort of thought about that halfway through the movie. I was kind of thinking, I'm like, what the fuck? What if these aren't their grandparents? What if this is just a random house? Because remember, we never saw any pictures with the grandparents and the mom. And I told you one clue that I noticed is when the daughter is asking the grandma about her mom, she's like, oh, I don't want to talk about, and she refers to her daughter as in her full name, which would seem odd to me. Like if you ask my mom about me, she's like, I don't want to talk about my son, I don't want to talk about him, or I don't want to talk about, Robbie or whatever. She wouldn't say, I don't want to talk about Robert Yanis Jr. That's like saying, I don't want to talk about Abraham Lincoln. There's a level of separation with that wording that kind of raised a red flag on my end. I was kind of like, wait, what? That's a little strange.
But she was also...
She's a little strange. Well, she's a little strange in general, but still, little things like that. Knowing that Shyamalan is meticulous a lot of times with that kind of thing, I sort of thought that I had an idea about where it might be going. So when it happened, I was like, I fucking knew it.
Well, I think that it's also the plot hole I was just speaking about, and I'll go into further about it. Is so if these people, because basically the other spoiler is that they killed their grandparents. So. Well,
not the kids. These people, the people in the house, the old people in the house killed the actual grandparents.
Yes. So they killed the actual grandparents. And I'm just thinking to myself, well, if they were, it's a good thing that they're crazy and they're old, because why, if they killed people, then why are they okay with having cameras in their face the whole time? Which I guess that's why the grandmother tried to destroy her computer with oven cleaner, I guess. Maybe that was intentional.
Yeah, I think it probably was intentional.
But I was like, why are they okay with this? Because now they're documenting everything.
Yeah, exactly.
And they ended up getting killed in the end anyway, so it's not like they could go to prison. But it's like, I wonder if they even would. Because they're old and they have health issues, and they're in the psychiatric hospital.
Yeah, the whole point was, throughout the movie, they're establishing that their actual grandparents volunteer at this place. And they never tell you what the place is until the end, when the daughter finds like the stuff in the basement, and it's like, oh, Maple, whatever, psychiatric hospital. I don't think they ever explain what that place is.
Right.
If it's, I think they imply that it's a nursing home.
Oh, well, what about Stacy?
Well, yeah, there's that. But I'm saying,
was she crazy? Stacy could have been crazy.
Stacy could have been crazy.
She looked a little
in some
loopy.
kind of rehab thing or something.
Yeah. Something was wrong with her eyes.
I think we were supposed to think she was in some form of rehab. It was like a rehab hospital or something like that. Because that's the other thing. When she sees them, she's like, what the fuck? And she's all panicked, and you don't know why until you look outside and you see her hanging from the tree. But the big reveal is that the people are not the grandparents, and they're actually psychiatric patients from the nearby hospital where the grandparents volunteered. I guess that they heard that the grandkids were coming, and so they essentially stole their identity. That was, I don't know. I as much as I sort of guessed a little bit at that, it didn't really spoil it for me. Like, I thought it was a mostly satisfying ending, and I like the way that it resolved itself. And the part that I was talking about, where you were like, what the hell's going on? And then I had to explain that you missed it when you walked out, is that the kid tells a story about, when he was like 8 years old, and I'm talking about the young boy, and he froze up during a football game, and just that he got stuck in the moment, paralyzed with fear, that kind of thing. And then later on, towards the end of the movie, the grandfather essentially has holding him there, torturing him or whatever. And you were wondering, why isn't he fighting back? Why is he just standing there? And I noticed that it was a callback to earlier in the film. So did that make a lot more sense after I told you that? Okay.
Yes. Oh my gosh! And I wonder how bad the sister felt when she left him by himself. And
she didn't mean to.
Yeah, but she was trying to go, investigate and see what was going on. But I don't think she realized what was going to happen to him. And what happened to him with the grandmother? He was on the floor.
Oh, when she's like that?
Yeah, I wonder if he got knocked out.
The podcast.
Yeah, I don't know. I wonder if he got knocked out from her by the grandfather.
Yeah, you don't know. You see he has a bruise on his head, so somebody knocked him out, presumably. I would think the grandfather maybe, because she seems to be more. He seems to be more of sound mind and body, and more together.
But I wonder what was wrong with him.
He had incontinence. We know that. That's why he was hiding the diapers.
Yeah, but then his brain would go because he would get Alzheimer's
or something.
Yeah.
But she was like a freaking nutcase.
Sundowning.
Holy crap! And that was the original title of the movie, which is a little trivia anecdote for listeners. But I guess in closing, what would you recommend this movie? Do you think, okay, 2 questions. 1, would you recommend this movie to people that thought the trailers looked interesting or fans of the genre and that kind of thing? And 2, do you think this will signal like a little bit of an upswing in Shyamalan's career, or do you think this is an anomaly and he's going to go back to making big budget crap? Because this movie cost about $5 million reportedly, and compared to the last couple of his that cost 100, 130, 150, around there, like they were both very costly, After Earth and Last Airbender. So, do you think 1 and 2 of the answers for those questions? What do you think?
Would I recommend The Visit? Yes, I would. It's a kind of like a fun type horror movie, and it's not too scary. And I'm saying this, and I'm scared of that stuff. But I don't think it's gonna be as scary as some of the things like the new movie coming out, Krampus and all that.
Krampus.
Is it Krampus?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was Krampus.
Oh, it's a Krampus. So it's either, and the lady in the trailer says Krampus. Because I guess it's because of the German origin. But yeah, no, that looks awesome. Yeah. I'm excited about that. I'll be reviewing that in December.
So I think for that, I would recommend it. It's not great. I mean, I thought Paranormal Activity actually was scarier to me, but
but Paranormal Activity was boring for like 70 minutes, and then the last like 10-15 minutes, I was like, okay, now it's interesting, and then it's over, and I'm like, okay, what the fuck. So, I mean, you know how you were bored with parts of this? I was bored with parts of that. I'm like, oh, wow, the door is moving slightly. And wow, that's really terrifying.
Somebody was there, man. Somebody was there. And the second question was, is this going to be an upswing?
Do you think it's a sign of good things to come, or do you think he's going to go right back to making crap?
To be positive, I hope that he will continue to maybe make lower budget films and he's learned his lesson, and that maybe... M. Night Shyamalan has a lot of potential, and he is a good screenwriter. He just has some things that he has to work on regarding climax. But I think that, I think maybe he might be making better movies. He's had a lot to learn from.
I was tempted to make a sex joke about you saying that this man needs to learn more about climax, but we'll skip over that. I actually think he's a better director than he is a screenwriter. I've said this for years to friends and such. I think he needs to learn to let someone else write his movies. I think he needs to let somebody else be the screenwriter for a change and focus on directing, because he's got this movie... He didn't do that much interesting with the found footage style, but like a lot of his films are very well shot, very interesting, like cinematography and atmosphere and that kind of thing. And the weak point is almost always on the story. The weak point for me is almost always on story. The Village and Lady in the Water and The Signs, I guess, all looked really great and made no freaking sense by the end. You're like, what the hell? This is supposed to tease this big reveal at the end? Really? No. Swing Away, George, and I told you in Signs, the thing with the baseball bat and how that plays into the end of that movie, remember?
Oh, yeah.
Didn't that sound kind of goofy when I told you it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big twist in that movie. It's a big reveal. So, that kind of thing. It's just like, my recommendation to him is put down the pen, get behind the camera, let someone else write an amazing screenplay, and then direct the shit out of it. And I think that'll help you out. Meanwhile, you're welcome, Shyamalan, to work on the Unbreakable sequel script in your back pocket, because I do think he can pull that together and make something interesting there. Get those 2 guys back in that movie.
Well, what about, did you want to say something about him working with the Jason Blumhouse?
Oh, yeah. This one, yeah.
Jason Blum, I don't know.
Yeah, Jason Blum, yeah. Jason Blum of Blumhouse Productions actually picked up on The Visit, and for those of you that don't know, they're behind pretty much every hit horror movie you've seen in the last 10 years. Paranormal Activity, The Purge, Insidious, all of those. They even have, I think their next one is the Eli Roth Green Inferno movie. So I think maybe that collaboration between Shyamalan and Blum also yielded a lot of positive results. But yeah, I think I recommend people go see it. Don't get your expectations too high. It's ultimately just like a fun little horror movie, because it also doesn't really take itself too seriously, which is a lot of times I think a good thing in horror movies. You have a little bit of tension relief in between scary sequences. So, anything else to say?
Nope, that's it.
All right. Well, that'll be it for this episode of the Crooked Table Podcast. You can reach me at Crooked Table on Twitter.
And you can reach me, Kai Yanis, at the Vault Key LLC on Twitter.
Of course, go online at crookedtable.com and read our review of The Visit, as well as other reviews, features, and upcoming podcast episodes. Subscribe to the show in iTunes and give us a review. We're totally open to any feedback you have, things you want to hear us talk about, or anything you want to tell us, good or bad. We're open to it. I have thick skin. Don't worry about it. So until next time, this is Rob.
And this is Kai.
And see you guys next time. Roll credits. I think we found a podcast. Mark, are you trying to take over my podcast again?
What?
No. Don't you have a terrible Michael Bay movie to make or something?
Drug free, so put the crack up.
Yeah, whatever.
This has been a production of crookedtable.com. All rights reserved.
CROOKED.